my lightning talk is not based on vimrc. When we're done, if you're interested in what I've done on my vimrc, we can go back. This is specifically about plugins that I use for Vim. Having said that, I will talk just a little bit about vimrc, but only as it relates specifically to Perl. So I like to organize my Perl settings into .vim, after, plugin, and Perl. So for those of you who don't know, in your Vim directory, you can have a number of directories. So you can have your plugin directory, you can have syntax directory, you can have FT plugins, and there's all kinds of things. And for all of those types of plugins, you can go into after and create a mirrored plugin, right? So if you have a Perl plugin, you can do after and then do things after it. And so I've put all my Perl configuration options in here. So really quickly, for those of you who haven't used the make program in Vim, it gives you an ability to run make. In C and other compiled languages, that makes a lot more sense. In Perl, basically what it does is it runs Perl-C. It takes the output, parses it, and then puts it into the cope output in your Vim, which is a split window with all the errors on lines. You can go to the line, you can hit enter, it'll take you to where that error was in your code. You can fix it, go to the next one. With Vim 7 at least, and I haven't checked with 8, it includes a script called, I believe it's EFM underscore Perl, and I found Vim parse, which is just a little bit nicer. You can find that online. So set the error format. It just tells Vim what to do with your errors as they come back. The next one is Perl fold. So I use the Vim Perl plugin to deal with syntax and highlighting and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that it can do is folding. Folding is really awesome. That's where Vim will look at your code and based on rules in your syntax can basically hide code together. So it can take subroutines and fold a bunch of lines. You can take classes and fold it, and then as you get into it, you can open them up and look at it. And I'll show you some examples of this in a little bit. The keyword program, by default, if you were in almost any language, there are some defaults to this. And if you go to whatever your language and you highlight a keyword and you hit Shift-K, it will tell you useful information about that command. So I've just told Vim to use PerlDoc for that Shift-K command. So if I highlight the word print and hit Shift-K, I'll get PerlDoc and all the options that go with that. This is a little mapping that I put for tidying my Perl code. So I've got 2 versions of that, one in visual mode and one in normal mode. So if I hit leader TI, then it will Perl tidy either the entire file or the selection that I've highlighted. Do you guys know what leader is? So leader gives you a new namespace to put macros under. So if you can use any keystroke, but most keys mean things in Vim. So now if you put a leader on it, then you have this whole new blank slate of keystrokes to use. So my leader is TI. What's that? Your leader is TI. My leader is comma. So I'm saying my leader, and then the keystroke TI. So if I hit comma TI, then that brings up this keystroke. I use this occasionally, but it's enough that it's useful. If I have a piece of code that I can't quite figure out, I can highlight it and hit D, and it will run it through dparse and show me what it thinks it's doing. And then I have a quick leader mapping for just running my current program. So I hit comma R, and it'll just Perl it. Okay, so now we're on to actual plugins. First of all, there's Perl.vim and Perl6.vim. They've recently split out. It used to be one that handled both sets. And actually, this same distro is what is used by Vim natively, but if you go to GitHub, then you get bleeding edge. So you can get, and this provides, like I said, it provides syntax, it provides highlighting, it provides your folding, it provides just a whole bunch of stuff for making your Perl nice. Additionally,
Does this look by default? Sorry.
it's in GitHub. So GitHub,
In your Vim setting?
oh, so you'll put it in .vim plugin. Well, and actually there's a whole bunch of files. Like there's actually an installer for it. It puts stuff into syntax, ft detect, and stuff. There are some, if you go to GitHub, there are actually some extras. So it provides you, for example, moose syntax, try tiny syntax, test more syntax, method signatures, and so on. So if you drop that in, well then now your test more, for example, actually highlights as if it was a system command. So you can use OK and it looks like, you know, print might in your syntax highlighter. Damian Conway has produced actually a whole truckload of plugins. If you go to this URL, you can see the rest of them he has. These are the ones that I personally find really useful. So HL Next, when you do a search, so / some search term, by default, it highlights all of the search terms that it finds. He takes it just a little bit further where it actually differentiates, so you can see there's a lighter color for all the things you found with a different color for where your cursor is actually at. And sometimes it's actually hard to tell where your cursor is at with all the highlighting. Track Perl vars allows you to, when you put your cursor over a Perl variable, it will highlight all of the variables in that file. So you kind of just move your cursor over it and your whole file kind of blinks and you can see where it is. It also provides a couple of shortcuts. So for example, you can go GD, go to definition, and that will jump up to where you declared the variable. You can do CV for change variable, and it will change all instances of that. I find that to be just a little bit wonky because it's not scoped. So if you have the same variable name, it will actually change over the whole file. It's really just doing a search and replace for the whole file. So I usually find I don't want it to be quite that big of a hammer. So I don't,
you kind of think you don't want to be wonky about it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then finally, you can toggle it on and off. So, and then EQ align simple is basically life-changing, and given a hash variable, I personally really like to have the equal, the greater than equal to line up, and so this provides a keystroke that just takes a hash and lines them up. And I'll show you examples of all this when I get done with it. Tim Pope has got quite a lot of plugins, and I like quite a lot of what he does. So if you go to his GitHub, you can see more that he has. But fugitive.vim allows you, it just gives you some nice Git integrations. So in your file, you can diff and commit and add and just write in Vim. Commentary is really simple. It allows you to comment lines. So if you do a visual select and hit GC for comment, then it will comment it and it will toggle it back the other way. So fairly simple. Surround, given an element, whether it's a word or a line or a visual selection, you can surround things. So you can put parentheses, curly braces, square braces, quotes. You can change those surroundings with ease. Pathogen is a way to manage your plugins. So rather than having to check out all the plugins and move the files in place into your Vim, you can, in the top of your vimrc, you list all the plugins and then call basically a pathogen kind of fetch, and it will grab all the plugins and install them. I actually don't use this very much, mostly because where I work, for a long time we couldn't get out to other places, so I actually did all the hard work myself and then would just CP it around, but that's actually the next thing I want to do. Okay, navigation plugins. So these are things that make it easier to get around your code base and the file. So has anybody here heard of ACK? Oh, so ACK is awesome. Silver Searcher is kind of the next iteration of ACK. It does almost exactly the same thing, except it's written in C, so it's a little bit faster. But ACK.vim gives you an ACK command. So in Vim, by default, there's a grep command. So you can just do :grep, give it a search term, and look in your file system and give you all the options. ACK does the same thing, except for now you get the power of ACK. Control P is a file system kind of fuzzy searcher. So you hit Control P and you just start typing, and it will start matching from where you're located in the file system and away from root. So up your hierarchy. So you can just start typing really quickly, and you can find files and then deal with them. Tag list is a way to, once you have a file open, you can use tag list to get a list of classes or modules or methods that are in that class. Go to it, and then quickly jump to it. Easy motion is a way to do short-term jumps. So you could do page up, page down. You can jump to the top of the file, the bottom of the file. But if you're looking at a window and you need to move up, to right there on your screen, what is that? Well, you hit up arrow a couple times, and you hit over a couple times, or maybe you use your word jumps. But it's still a little tedious, right? But so what this provides you is a list of shortcuts that say, it uses all the same Vim bindings. So W for moving forward a word, B for moving back a word, F for moving up a character, T for moving just before the character. And so you do your shortcut T, and that will kind of give you a list of options on the page that kind of match your search, and it just kind of basically superimposes onto your screen like A, B, C, D, all the matches it finds, and you hit, I want to go to G, and it just dumps right there. And I'll show you this in a second. I wanted to get through it first before I come back. Expand region is for visual select. So you hit V, and then if you hit V again, it kind of progressively widens your visual selection. And it tries to be smart about it. If you're in the middle of a quote, it'll jump to the quote. If you're in the middle of a parentheses, it'll just keep going out. Okay, lazy typing. So nobody wants to type, right? So this provides ways to cut down on some of the typing that we have to do. So templates.vim gives you a whole bundle of predefined templates as well as a way to define new ones. So if I type, vi newfile.pl and it doesn't exist, it will look at my templates directory and give me whatever my global template for Perl is. You can also make per project template files too. So if you have a different requirement, then it can find that and give you a preloaded thing. Auto pairs and delimit mate give you a way to reduce typing for paired things like parentheses, quotes, and so on. So if you type an opening parentheses, it will automatically type the closing one for you and then put you in the middle of the parentheses. And same thing with quotes, curly braces, square brackets, and so on and so forth. If you are nested, so if you have a square brace and then an open, paren and then a quote, and then you type something and you want to get back out, well then you just type the last thing in your stack and it will jump you outside of it, and then you can keep going. Match it expands the capabilities of percent. What percent does by default is it jumps you from the top of a block to the bottom of a block. And the definition of a block by default is either a parentheses or a curly brace or a square brace. So if you hit percent and you're on a brace, it will jump you to its match. What match it does is now it kind of expands what those pairs are. So if you're in HTML and you're sitting at a bracket or an angle bracket P, it will jump you to the other P. It will also match else ifs. It will match a whole bunch of things. Super tab gives you tab completion for a lot of things. So if you're typing, a thing, you hit tab, it will look in the file. If it can't find a match in the file, it will look in your language definitions. If it can't find that, they can go up and just gives you tab completion.
They still prefer the mechanical tabs.
Yeah. So miscellaneous things. So git gutter gives you as you type, changes to the file as if you ran a git diff. So you open a file, then you get a little plus on the side. If you delete a line, then you get a little minus on the side. If you change a line, you get a little squiggly. Indent guides, I actually don't find to be very useful for Perl, because Perl has braces, which is nice. But if you're working in a language that doesn't have braces, Python, then indent guide gives you a visual clue as to how deep your indent level is. And it just color codes each tab stop, so it kind of goes from a dark gray to a light gray, and you can see where your tabs are. Local vimrc gives you a way to have per directory overrides. So
That is a lovely feature.
yes. So for example, in one of my projects, whenever I hit write, I have a hook that will run my CSS compiler on it. And so I have that in that directory. So when I'm in that directory and I hit write, it will compile my code. You know, and you can do other things like that. But I don't want that everywhere, only in that directory. And then finally, fast fold. I actually found this like an hour before I came here. One of the problems with Perl fold that I mentioned earlier, well, folding in general, is that Vim's folding can guess incorrectly, and the bigger your file gets, what happens when you go into insert mode, you start typing and it gets really eager to make sure it knows what your folds are. Problem is it can slow down. It feels like you're typing over a 56K modem, right? So you type a character and then it churns really hard to see if it can build a fold, and then it fails, and then it lets you type the next character, and then it tries really, really, really hard to find the next fold. And so what fast fold does is really simple. When you go into insert mode, it sets your fold method to manual, which tells it to stop folding, and then when you jump back out of it, it turns it back on again. And it makes life beautiful, for me anyways. So that's the end of my plugin list. So now I will just show you some examples of this. Is that big enough, or does it need to be bigger?
Do you have all your settings on a public repository, like a GitHub?
Yes.
This?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I can share that when we're done. Let's go just a little bit bigger. Okay, tell me when. Okay, so I'll show you templates first. So oh, actually, that's not a very good test because I already have this. Let's see. Okay, so this is my simple template for Perls. It just basically gives me strict and warnings. You can do a lot more than that if you want to. So here I am in my file. I'll show you.
This is a file that didn't exist previously.
Yes. Okay, so let me create a hash. Okay, so auto pairs. I've got my opening and closing. If you hit enter, it will automatically also move down your curly brace and put on the next line. So let's just do A is equal to B, C, and let's do this. Sorry. Okay, so this is driving me crazy. I got to fix this. So this is Damien's plugin. So I've got it mapped to my minus sign, but if I hit that, well then it makes it all lined up and pretty. Let's search for D. So this is HTML next. It's hard to tell because I only searched for one character, but you can see a difference of where my cursor is at. Without the plugin, they would just all be blue. I'll show you my tidy. I actually don't use, I don't have my current tidy.rc on here, so this actually wouldn't tidy it the way I would like it, but according to what tidy thinks is the right way to do this, it's now retidied. Let's. Okay, this is Control P. So Control P is my file browser. I don't actually know what directory I'm in. What's it doing? Oh, there it goes. It just took a while. Okay, so I think this file's in here. Let's see. Server. Okay, so so let's say I wanted to open this file, and I want to open that file, and I want to open that file, and I'm going to open them all vertically. So here we go.
How do you do vertically? Was it just a V or something?
Yeah, so Control V would open all the selections vertically. Control X would open them all horizontally.
X?
Yeah. You can also, with Control P, search your, so Control F in this plugin lets you search for different things. So now I'm going to search for buffers.
Which plugin is this again?
Control P. That's what it's
Control
called.
P is just what it's called.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can search your buffers for things that you have. You can also search your MRU files, which I actually don't know what that means, but most recently used, yeah. And if you were using C tags, then you could also search for tags here. I don't use, I keep trying to use C tags, and the problem with most of the projects I'm on is it just doesn't work very well because I'm actually in different repos and they all need to be together. All right, let's quit that. Let's see, let me go back to this. Okay, let's go to a Git repo. What do we have in here? Let's go.
One of the oldest tools around has remained the most cutting edge.
Yeah. Let's see, do I have throw? Let's go to throw. Okay. So here's an example of folding. It's going to fold like things. So ZC will close a fold. Just doing any action like arrow or space will open a fold. You can open all folds, which is ZR. You can close all folds, which is, actually went too far, but Z, capital C. And then you can do it again for open again. So I'm going to close that again. Okay, so we're going to make a change to this file. And is Git going to work with me? Okay, there it goes. I had to write. So we can see there's a new line here. Let's undo that. What else do I want to show you? I don't want that. Auto pairs match it. Super tab. We already talked about that. Easy motion. I'll show you that one. That was interesting. Okay, so I'm going to put myself right here.
Okay.
I want to get over to that last pretty. So you can see it's giving me alpha keys to get to where I want to go. I want to get to that second pretty, which is K. So now I'm over there. Like I said, you can use any of the motion commands. So if I wanted to go backward, then I hit B and it lights up all the things behind me. So I'm going to go to that delete. I can, let's do a surround. I want to take this whole block and add another brace around it. So, right? Actually, let's redo that. If I'm in a block, I can change it. I can change it to a parentheses, for example. I can delete it. So just a quick way to handle dealing with surrounding things. And that was surround, what just did that. Oh, tagless. Let's show you that one. So just gives me a quick overview of all of the methods in this particular file. So I'm going to go to cluck. It'll drop me straight to it. So it's just it's a quick browser. Commentary surround. Commentary is not very exciting, but just gonna comment it.
Which one was that?
That was commentary.
Okay. And so what was the keystroke to accomplish that?
G, C. So G is the motion and C is comment. And then to re-highlight, that's just built into Vim, but that's GV, that's highlight the last thing I highlighted.
I see.
That's
And
nice. My fingers just know the regex replace.
Yeah.
and then the last thing, Damien's, so let's highlight that. So if I go to keys, you can see those two things highlighted. You can see all the keys on this page. If I go to definition, it takes me to the one where it was defined at. In a small block like this, it's not quite as helpful, but
I remember that he talks about the fact that, you know, if you have a list variable and then you treat it in scalar context,
it's still
it could be matching an entirely different
Yeah.
variable.
where it also shines. Another thing that this thing does is any system variables, or I should say, what do they call these kind of variables?
Special variables?
Yeah, the special variables, but if you highlight it, it will tell you what it means.
Oh, okay.
So if we did $/, for example, and then you highlight it, it'll tell you that it's the input records selector.
Is it the Perl doc query?
Yeah. Speaking of that, if I do Shift K, then it tells me, you know, what the Perl doc would say on it.
And all these key combinations you have memorized, or?
Yeah.
A little paper.
He has to
Throw back to
consult
Word
the manual.
Sticker on the keys.
Is that using the projector beat?
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. So that's the finished my presentation. If anybody cares, I can show you my VimRC, but I think we're probably over time.